Okay. Well, it is good to see so many familiar and friendly faces. We recognize that as we're giving this presentation to you all, in the past, it's always been you all presenting to us. And so we truly appreciate you all participating in this and listening to us. And we most definitely consider you all partners. And we're excited to share with you our strategic plan for the next decade or so. Our team I'm just very proud of our team, first of all, for having gone through this process. It was a long process, but we learned so much about ourselves. We learned a lot about our community. We think that we believe that we have a great plan to move forward with. I'm going to be joined in this presentation by my teammates. So Jan Ross and Tristy Charpentier will both participate in this presentation. And there's three things that I want you to leave with today. The first thing is that we took a very collaborative approach to how we created this plan. Many of you were surveyed. We conducted interviews with you all and community leaders and fellow funders. And, what we learned is that in the past, in the way we've operated, we've been very reactive to the needs of our community. But as we move forward, you all wanted us to be more proactive around certain areas of engagement. The second thing is that this was based on data analysis. We went deeply into information within our community to understand where best to apply ourselves. And the last thing is that, this is really driven towards impact. And, we believe that the way in which we've created this plan will ultimately yield the greatest results, most efficiently. But by all means, we cannot do this ourselves, and we're going to need the support of all of you as we move forward. And so, things are going to be different over time with how we do things. And, the change starts with us, but we include you in that equation to say, it's all of us that will be participating in this change. And so with that, I'm going to hand it over to my teammate, Jan Ross, who will tell you a little bit about the history of our foundation and those who created it.
All right, thanks, David. Appreciate the transfer over to me. And so great to see so many familiar faces, so many friends that have been with us for so many years. But my role in this presentation is really to personalize the foundation. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson have been gone for a number of years. And even from the time that we first started grant making, people remembered who the Wilsons were, but as time has gone by, fewer and fewer people do. So I will, provide a little bit of information on them and give a little bit of their story to personalize the foundation. So they were serial entrepreneurs. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson began in jewelry and then also went into offshore platform fabrication. And it's their retail model of jewelry stores that they started back in the early 50s on 3rd Street. And it was literally a closet that Mr. Wilson was doing jewelry repair for other jewelers in town. But when they sold to Service Merchandise in the mid 80s, they had 82 stores in 13 Southeast region states. But as with any entrepreneur, not all of their efforts were successful. They had a sandwich shop called Huey's Sandwich Express that truly is one that we will leave for the history books. Want to leave that one alone. They grew up during the Great Depression, and we all know that that was very hard times. They were both from large families. Mr. Wilson was one of 23 children. And it was their life experiences that really influenced their work ethics, their family values, and it really helped them to feel that they could relate to the community, to the, to all of the people that supported them as they were building their businesses. Sorry about that one. So Mr. and Mrs. Wilson wanted to support the community that supported them. And they gave back to the community during their time, their lives, but also at the end of their life. During their lives, they volunteered, did a good amount of volunteering at the Salvation Army. And Mr. Wilson was known to ring the bell for Salvation Army at Christmas time, and to think of being in jewelry retail for a jeweler that they make about 2/3 to 3/4 of their income at Christmas time. So that was a huge, fact that he was volunteering his time. And there's many comical stories of things that happened while he was ringing the bell. And one in particular was of him partnering with Doc Pennington. And Mr. Wilson had forgotten his gloves on a cold morning. And so Doc Pennington shared his gloves. So they each have one glove on, and he's ringing the bell. That arm gets tired, and so they swap gloves. And so they go on, and I won't say that they were singing Christmas carols, but they were out there giving their time to Salvation Army and really giving back to the community that supported both of them. So it is amazing to see how everyday people were giving back, and how instrumental that has been in their legacies, both for Mr. Wilson as well as for Doc Pennington. But the foundation, the Wilson started the foundation in the mid-'80s. And it wasn't until the fall of 2000 that we started formal grant making. But in between that time, I saw Mrs. Wilson writing literally thousands of $25 checks to many organizations. And you know how that goes. We have received address labels and continue receiving address labels from some of the organizations that she would give to. So their commitment to the community really started way back in their adult years. But they, as I had said earlier, they gave back even after their lives. Mr. Wilson gave a meaningful portion of his estate to the foundation. And just 8 years ago, when Mrs. Wilson passed, she gave a meaningful portion of her estate to organizations in the community. So, and that was their commitment to the community that supported them as they were creating their businesses. And with the foundation today, we continue that commitment to the community. And you'll see that in the strategic plan that we're presenting today. But the mission of the foundation is not going to change. We want to focus on that which Mr. and Mrs. Wilson thought was important when they created the foundation. And that mission is supporting the nonprofit organizations that are out in the community addressing the challenges of our community in the same areas that we have had of human services, healthcare, education, and prison reentry initiatives. Now, the focus of the Wilsons remains the same. And that is in really working at the individual level to ensure that everyone has access to education and resources to build the skills to achieve their full potential. We want to ensure that everyone is self-sufficient and productive and successful members of the community. Now, the foundation is changing how we do what we do, but we continue to support those organizations and those efforts that are collaborative and cooperative, that support the people and places of our community. Now, the legacy of collaboration really started back with the Wilsons having their jewelry retail stores. You know, I heard quite a number of times Mr. Wilson saying that as a jeweler, he didn't sell jewelry. He offered jewelry. He really wanted to work with each of his customers. And as a bridal specialist, many people were coming to him for their engagement rings and things of the sort. And Mr. Wilson wanted to work with his customers to really create that experience, that joyful time with a young person buying an engagement ring for his loved one. You know, that is such a joyful and wonderful time. Mr. Wilson really wanted to help them to build and to experience that joy. Now, the Wilsons knew that community leaders would play a significant part in the foundation's work. And we have, for many years, have had trustees, community leaders as trustees. But for us, community leaders is more than at the trustee level. It is really those that are out in the community, that are giving their time and really dedicating themselves to address barriers that are going on in our community, but also inspiring others to come along with them and work towards addressing those barriers. So collaboration really is the essence of everything that we do. And we want to continue that collaborative spirit in the implementation of this strategic plan. So for the last 21 years, the foundation has been reactive to receiving grant applications, recognizing the community needs that were addressed in that application. But in going forward, we really are having a proactive and a targeted direction to targeting those lasting impacts of addressing the community needs. And as David had led, this strategic plan is informed by research, quite a bit of research. And I will transfer on to Tristy so that she can take us on a deeper dive in some of the statistics and some of the research that we found that really informed the plan.
Thank you, Jan. So philanthropy means the love of humankind. And I think the stories that Jan shared about Mr. and Mrs. Wilson show how much they really loved their community. The nature of our foundation is to serve our communities and offer more than what they can create on their own. And we know that typically when a community is in need, there isn't one sole cause or symptom. We need to take a comprehensive look at a place to help it move forward, looking at the root causes that hinder growth, slow development, and challenge its people. So community is what leads us to a place-based approach. Place-based philanthropy is a method that targets a specific location. It could be a neighborhood, a municipality, or even an entire parish or multiple parishes on which to focus our charitable resources and make a transformative impact. Place is more than just geography. It's community, it's neighbors, it's people. And as places in need, these collections of people have intertwined issues that hold some back and knock down opportunities that they could find in other places. Whether a place is a block, a neighborhood, or a community, the foundation is going to be a champion for collaboration, focusing on helping to meet those basic human needs at the root cause, rather than focusing on short-term symptoms. We believe that this is what the Wilsons envisioned, what they hoped for, and why they chose to invest in their community. And as I'm talking about community and I'm talking about place, you may be asking yourself how we have or how we will decide which place we want to go deep. And both of my colleagues have talked about looking at data and being data-driven. So we're going to look at that data with you right now. This is the 10 parish region that we serve. This collection of parishes serves 800,000 residents. Each of these parishes is very different from one another. We have very densely populated urban places and other sparsely populated rural places. When you're trying to reach the greatest number of people, it makes sense to look where there is a large density of people. And we thought we might look closer at North Baton Rouge and how things are shaking out there. And so here's the section generally called North Baton Rouge, everything north of Florida Boulevard to Baker and Central. These 8 zip codes include more than 160,000 people. That's 40% of the parish. These residents also account for 20% of the entire region. Think about it, 1/5 of this 10 parish region resides in these 8 zip codes in North Baton Rouge. Put another way, here are the populations of each of the parishes we serve with the regional total across the top. If we pulled North Baton Rouge out as a separate entity, those 8 zip codes have more people than 9 of the parishes in the region. That's a lot of people. And I think that intuitively we know that there are challenges that these residents face, but what do the statistics tell us? Let's take a look at median household income. Across the region, $56,000 is the average household earnings across the region, so all 10 parishes. If we pull out East Baton Rouge specifically, it's about the same at $54,000. But when you pull out those 8 zip codes in North Baton Rouge, it drops by $16,000 to a little more than $38,000. And if we drill down to 70805, it's down to just $25,000 per year. Can we imagine trying to get by on just $2,000 a month? Here's some hard facts about trying to get by on $2,000. This is the ALICE Household Survival Budget. For those of you who may be unfamiliar, ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed, what we typically call the working poor. Some economists have put together what the average family needs to earn in order to survive in East Baton Rouge Parish. Housing, childcare, and food. If you recall in the previous slide, I said that the median household income in 70805 was a little more than $2,000 per month. After only 3 budget items, we're already spent $2,675. But let's keep going. Transportation, healthcare, technology, miscellaneous, and those all-important taxes, and a 2-adult, 2-child household in East Baton Rouge Parish must earn $5,619 a month, which equals $67,000 per year. If you look at this budget, recall that this does not include savings, no kids' college funds, no dining out, no entertainment. These are your basic household needs. Now, how many families do you think cannot afford this ALICE survival budget? Across the region, 48% of families are struggling to meet this budget. In East Baton Rouge Parish specifically, a little more than half, at 52%, are under the threshold to meet this budget. In North Baton Rouge, 67% of families cannot afford this. And if we drill down to 70802, 81% of families cannot afford this budget. Only 2 out of 10 families in North Baton Rouge or in 70802 can afford this budget. We often hear about the high cost of housing in our community, and housing is also one of the largest chunks of your budget. A good rule of thumb is that a family shouldn't be spending more than 30% of their income on housing. So how does this stack up for our communities? In the greater Baton Rouge region, 48% of families are housing burdened, spending more than 30% on their housing. In East Baton Rouge Parish specifically, it's a little more than half at 54%. North Baton Rouge, we get to 61%. We're right at that 2/3 again. And then if we drill down to 70811, 78% of families are housing burdened. They are spending more than 30% of their income on their housing. Education. We often hear and think that education is the key to breaking the cycle of poverty. Experts agree that reading proficiency by 3rd grade is the single most important predictor of high school graduation and career success. That means that a student can read and write on grade level. In Louisiana, 46% of children can read and write on grade level at 3rd grade, less than half. If we look at the greater Baton Rouge region, it's about the same at 45%. If we look at East Baton Rouge specifically, we're down to 42%. But if we take the schools that are located in those North Baton Rouge zip codes and are open enrollment, the number of children who can read on grade level falls to 31%. Only 1/3 of children who attend schools in North Baton Rouge, only 1/3 can read on grade level. Once kids fall behind, they generally stay behind. Most also typically agree that the key to a good job and self-sufficiency is a high school diploma at a minimum. In Louisiana, 84% of children are graduating. If we look at the greater Baton Rouge region, it's about the same at 86%. If we look at East Baton Rouge specifically, we fall to 75%. And then again, if we look at those open enrollment schools in North Baton Rouge zip codes, we fall to 61%. For every 10 children who enter 9th grade in a North Baton Rouge school, only 6 will graduate, 4 will not. We know these challenges did not develop overnight, and they're not going to be solved overnight. We're committing to developing solutions over the long term by transforming from reactive grant making to targeted investments for long-term outcomes. While the problem won't be solved overnight or in a one-year grant term, we do anticipate and expect to have some meaningful progress toward those outcomes as we continue to answer the needs of our community. I'll hand it back over to David now to give you more details about our specific 10-year strategic plan.
Thank you, Tristy. You've painted a pretty clear picture as to why we're doing what we're doing, but I want to share one more with you. If you could imagine that you're driving on I-10 and you get off at the South Acadian exit and you start driving north. If you're driving to your home that's somewhere near the Catholic Life Center, you have an average life expectancy of roughly 83 years of age. If you keep driving north and you cross Florida Boulevard and you end up in the Gus Young, Bogan Walk area, and you're driving to your home there, your average life expectancy is roughly 66 years of age. Now, that's a 17-year difference in your life expectancy. That is the clear reason as to why we have to focus on places as we move forward with our plan. And we recognize that as we talk about North Baton Rouge, we're talking about a group of people that are predominantly Black. And we are not the preeminent experts at the Wilson Foundation on issues related to race and equity and justice. But what I can tell you is that we are willing to listen. We are willing to sit at any table and learn and participate and contribute to creating a community where all will thrive. So let's go to our plan, and I'll give you a little bit of an overview to start us out. There's 4 components to our plan. The equip component has to do with building capacity in nonprofits throughout the entire 10 parish region. As we move into the next component, we'll talk about engage. Engaging means we're working with people. And the 3 populations in which we'll focus are those who are in poverty, those who are in the ALICE population, and those who are formerly incarcerated persons. The empower portion of our plan has to do with that place-based focus. And excellence has to do with us looking internally and making sure we're doing all of the things that we need to do in order to effectively and efficiently accomplish what we've set out to do. Let's dive in a little more deeply into each area of the plan. So equip has to do with the capacity building in the nonprofits that we serve. And here are the 5 elements of that. We want organizations to have an excellent leadership skills and pipeline. So where that executive director who is there now has someone who is lining up in order to take their position, and that organization will not miss a beat. Also, we want you all to have strategic plans and metrics. Just as we're sharing some of the areas where we're going to focus, we want you to have goals and metrics on what you're trying to accomplish. Otherwise, how do you know if you're being successful? We want nonprofits that we serve to be financially resilient. This means working with you all in order to make sure that you have 3 months of operating expenses in cash reserve. We know that there are all kinds of bumps in the road, and if you have a cushion, you can operate most effectively towards the achievement of your missions. We all too often hear about silos, especially in the sector in which we operate, the nonprofit community. We want those silos to break down. We want you all to collaborate with those organizations that can empower you to better fulfill your mission and increase your impactfulness. And lastly, those bumps in the road. We talked about them already. We've just gone through Hurricane Ida. We're still in the midst of a pandemic. Government shutdown probably is right around the corner if our federal government cannot achieve approval of a budget. We all have to have plans for when those rainy days come along, and we want to help you develop a plan so where you do not miss a beat whenever those situations happen. Engage directs right towards what Mr. and Mrs. Wilson wanted us to do, which is working with those families who are most in need and those individuals. And so what we're going to focus on is, just as we want the nonprofits that we serve to be financially resilient, we want families to be financially resilient as well. And so we want to decrease the percentage of families who are liquid asset poor. We also want to improve the healthcare utilization rates by families in that sector, because the number one reason in which a family may have to file for bankruptcy is an unexpected medical expense. If families are using the healthcare assets that are available, or we're creating healthcare assets where they are not currently, then perhaps they can hedge off that small medical concern right now that could become a major medical concern down the road. And that will help to eliminate that significant expense or perhaps job loss that would come from a very significant medical issue. And lastly, amongst the formerly incarcerated population, we want to decrease the recidivism rate in our community. And that brings us to the empower area of our plan. There's sort of a pathway here, and so I'll invite you to follow me through these different metrics in which we will seek to achieve. First of all, we want children showing up to kindergarten ready to learn. And that means that there has to be an amazing, outstanding early education center in that community, in that neighborhood, where any family would love to have their child attend and grow. And of course, if everything works out as planned, they arrive to kindergarten ready to learn. And if that child shows up to kindergarten ready to learn, they're going to be able to really internalize the information that their teachers are telling them, and they'll show up to third grade and they will be reading on grade level, if not at a mastery level. So that's the next metric in which we will hope to move. So if kids have successfully reached third grade and they have the foundation for learning, they will matriculate through the rest of their elementary and middle school years and reach high school and ultimately graduate at a much higher rate than what we're seeing right now. So those are talking about the children. Let's talk about some of the parents. Tristy shared a little bit about those families who are housing burdened. We want to work with those families to ensure that less families are spending more than 30% of their income on their housing. And there's twofold approach to this. One, we have to create and find and prepare people for jobs that pay a living wage. So higher incomes is the first component of it. The next component is making sure that there is quality, affordable housing stock in our community where families would enjoy living and they can raise their families. And lastly, there's still a metric that we're looking for that would describe the health and well-being of our community. We've read about how do you know if your community is moving in the right direction? And it said, the first thing is you feel safe enough to walk out on your front porch in the morning and look around. But the second thing is, as you're out there and you're drinking your coffee and you're looking across your neighbors' homes and what's going on, you just have a feeling inside that your neighborhood is moving in the right direction. We want to somehow quantify that and be able to measure that for the community in which we're focused. The last area of the plan is the excellence area. And this is truly us looking internally. We want to make sure that we're leveraging the wisdom of our trustees to the fullest extent. We want to make sure that we have the right talent on our team. And one of the things that we'll ask you for at the end of this presentation is, for our next teammate, we know that we're going to bring somebody on to our team to help us with this place-based focus. And we know in that effort, we also have to achieve a scenario where we look more like the communities that we serve. And so we do not know who that person is, and we rely upon all of our friends and our partners in the community to help us identify that person who will help us make this plan successful. This is us looking into our governance. This is us making sure that we're doing the best job possible managing the assets in which we're trusted. And ultimately, when Jan and Tristy and our other teammate Stephanie come into work, I want them to feel like they work in the best possible place, in our entire community, and that they love coming to work every single day. So this is important. We talk about the implementation of our plan. First of all, I think it would be irresponsible for an organization like ours to pivot quickly to the execution and implementation of our long-term strategic vision. So over the next 1.5 to 2 years, we are going to look similar to the way we look right now, as we continue to learn and investigate how best to accomplish the strategic mission that we have. And so in that time, we recognize that there are nonprofits that will say, I'm not operating in North Baton Rouge right now. I may have a little more difficulty accessing funds from the Wilson Foundation as I had in the past. Well, we want to have those conversations while we are in this transition period, so where the sustainability of all of the organizations that we serve is where it needs to be as we go into the full execution of the plan. And what does that really mean? Having a significant focus on the place-based area of our plan, or that empower pillar of the plan. For us, as our portfolio has grown, we have to grant a certain amount of funds per year. And we're going to dedicate 60 to 70% of our funds towards that place-based focus. And so the dollar amount associated with that area of the plan is roughly $5 million, give or take, depending on how the portfolio does moving forward. Hopefully, the markets will continue to perform, and we'll be able to grow our grant making. But we recognize that we have to be responsible with these funds, and we have to make really wise investments. And we want to make the greatest impact with the dollars that we're putting out into the community. Those investments are very important to us. So as we wrap it up, we believe that this strategic plan is absolutely in line with what Mr. and Mrs. Wilson envisioned when they created this foundation. We're taking a very entrepreneurial approach. And we know that we're going to have some investments that turn out like Huey's Sandwich Express. They're not going to work out. But we have to take risk, and we have to learn from those risks. And we ultimately have to capture all of the things that we've been able to work with you all to succeed in doing. And we want to duplicate that time and time again in our community as we go through this process. So this is what the Wilsons envisioned, and this is what they had hoped for. And this is why they decided to invest in people within our area. And so we thank you for your time, and we want to open it up for questions. Please place a question in the chat if you would like, and we can most efficiently answer all of the questions possible there. But as we open it up, and we would want you to raise your hand as well, and you can share your question with all verbally as well. So, have at it. We look forward to answering your questions. And once again, we thank you for your time.
If you'd like to verbally ask a question, we'd also ask you to raise your hand and we'll call on you that way as well. I see Kelly Rogers with her hand raised.
Hey, Tristy, this isn't a question. It was just a comment. I just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys for this. This was really well laid out, and having worked in North Baton Rouge for a really long time, it was a great background on what happens there and what the need is. And I really appreciate you guys putting this together for all of us.
And Marvin has in the chat, and thanks Marvin for participating. Have we presented to other funders? And the answer is yes. We have presented to other funders as well as other community leaders. We will continue presenting to others that we really feel can benefit from the information, as well as can help us see what the true needs are and what are some of the true solutions in the community.
Tristy, I think Sarah has a good question in the chat. Will your grant making shift from annual grants to multi-year grants? There will be a blend. We will do both. We will take a look at each grant request, and we want to talk to you about those grant requests in advance of you submitting them, so we can best understand what the need is, what the potential impact will be. But we will definitely be willing to make multi-year grants moving forward.
And it won't be invitation only. We recognize that we may have relationships with organizations and programs that are out in the community, but there is many that we do not know of. And so we want to remain open to forming partnerships with any organization that is out there doing the work that helps us achieve the impact and move the needle as we have lined out.
The next question I see is, do you foresee making collaborative grants with other funders? Absolutely. We know we cannot do this alone. We have a finite amount of resources, and we have ambitious goals. So yes, we're going to need the support of other funders. And we also want to fund collaborative efforts amongst nonprofits. We feel like maybe a portion of the capacity building training that we can share with you all is, how to create an MOU. So where nonprofits can work together and receive funding together in order to achieve, certain goals.
And there's a question about the shift being exclusively for North Baton Rouge, and that answer is no. We continue to have a focus on the greater Baton Rouge area. And as the areas that David described as people-focused, as well as the capacity building focus, that will be on organizations that are in the greater Baton Rouge area. Only a portion of our focus will be in the North Baton Rouge area. That people focused on the ALICE population, those living in poverty, as well as the formerly incarcerated. That will be for organizations that provide services throughout the greater Baton Rouge area.
And the next question is, have you or will you be engaging the school system, early Head Start and Head Start, and or private daycare? Yes.
Without question.
The next one, will you look favorably on collaborative grants with multiple agencies coming together to tackle community challenge? Yes.
Yes.
I think collaboration is one of those themes that you heard throughout the presentation. So yes, all of the nonprofits working together collaboratively, us working collaboratively with the nonprofits, and also collaboratively with all the other funders in our community as well.
And Laura asked a very similar question, and for us bringing organizations together. And, there's have been conversations in the past of of mergers. And, you know, that would be a great idea if organizations that do duplicate services were to merge, but it's not successful unless they both want it. And so when it comes to collaborative efforts, there may be opportunities for us to encourage organizations to consider working together. But if there are organizations that are presently working together and doing a great job at it, we are also far supporting it. So it will be, as Tristy was describing, it will be a combination of efforts that we will support. We won't force anything to happen because that's not productive.
And to Laura's question about bringing together groups of nonprofits, so several of you may be familiar with our prison reentry initiative we did a few years ago. A central part of that prison reentry initiative was quarterly gatherings with those grantees so that they could work together, hear about what everyone was working on, find ways for them to collaborate. And I think that that is something that we will continue to work on in moving forward with these different initiatives.
And as
Stephanie asked about what kinds of reentry initiatives we've focused on. Would you just continue with that response and share that as well?
Sure. For reentry, there are really three kind of big buckets that we work in. First is direct service for the individuals who are returning. So how are we helping them to achieve employment and housing, sobriety, all of those good things. And then there's a portion around collaboration and building a continuum of care so that when someone releases, they have all of the resources they need. And the nonprofit community and government actors are all working together in concert to move that person forward. And then the third piece is around advocacy work. So what are those barriers to reentry that we can eliminate through legislative advocacy and policy change within the department?
And Nicole has a question of if we would, if we had plans of forming a advisory committee. And we have not lined out specifically how each one of these components of the strategic plan will work. So that is a good idea. And that may be included in how we go about implementing the plan. So thank you for the idea. And we will see where that takes us.
There's another question. Is there space to partner with the EBR school district on community and family engagement initiatives currently in process? Yes.
Yes.
We are open to working with everyone. And if there are initiatives that we are not aware of, please bring them to our attention. We also reach out when we hear about things that we also want to work in. So it's a give and take.
And that is addressed in our active participation in the BRAIN network, the Baton Rouge Area Youth Network, which is out of school time providers. So that is our connection to the school system, along with participating in many of the planning committee meetings in creating the strategic plan for the school system. And I think that we will be involved in some of the implementation planning for that also.
And we have a great relationship with Dr. Narcisse, here in the early days of his leadership of the school system. And so we hope to continue that moving forward.
And when it comes to education, though, historically, we have had a great focus on charter schools, recognizing the quality of education that they bring to the community, as well as the just alternative opportunities that it provides to children and to the families in the community. We are building, just as has been described, our relationship with the public school system, and really feel that that will continue to be something that we strive to get deeper into.
So good morning, everyone. There are some really creative and innovative things that Dr. Narcisse and I are working on as far as community and family engagement. And I would love to have some time to sit down and speak with whomever I need to connect with concerning more support in that area. If
And
ma'am.
Absolutely.
Crystalline, if you don't mind me saying, Crystalline was brought on a month and a half ago as that liaison of building community schools, of that liaison of reaching out into the community to those that want to and are doing services in the school system, and seeing how they can be best utilized in the different schools and the different classrooms. So I think that for me, that it has been huge, because it really allows those organizations that have been trying to get into schools and have been struggling to form those relationships. So you will be that conduit that we will rely on. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
And actually, Crystalline, if you would put your contact information in the chat box, if anyone would like to contact her, please feel free.
And we'll follow up with you, Crystalline, to get some time on your calendar to have those conversations.
So we still have about 10 minutes left in the time that we allotted for this meeting. We're happy to continue answering any questions that y'all have.
And we're also happy to give you a little time back to your day, if that's what you should so choose. I think we may be reaching the end of the questions. You all know how to reach us. Our door is always open. I think that Tristy and Jan would echo what I'm about to say. We are so blessed to get to do the work that we do. And it's you, not us, that are the most important organizations in this equation. You guys truly do the heavy lifting. We're just in a position to fund you. And so, thank you for all of the work that you do to make our community a better place for all. We look forward to continuing to partner with you and collaborate with you as we move forward in the implementation of this plan. We absolutely need your support. We cannot do it without you. Thank you for listening to us today. And we wish you a wonderful rest of the day.
John, how are you doing? I see you're sticking around. You're on mute.
Yeah, I had a 110-foot tall oak tree come through my house
Oh my gosh.
in Ida, and I'm struggling to do everything I'm supposed to be doing. And so when I returned home about 8 o'clock last night from the Iris, water all over my hardwood floors from that rain. I had it tarped, but I think there's a hole in the tarp, and I'm at wit's end. So I'm stalling before I have to go back. I enjoyed the planning. I enjoyed the presentation. That's great stuff. And I just was delaying my trip back into my house to go deal with that water. That's all. That was a great job, Jan. Y'all did a wonderful job on it, both of y'all, all of you. It was really good stuff.
We appreciate you participating and listening, and really hope that you all will see where you fit.
Yeah, I look like hell. That's why I wasn't going to let y'all see me at first. But then I said, oh, what does it matter at this time? So anyway, very impressive though. And I've seen a lot of presentations on strategic planning, but this was very, very to the point and clear. And I'm really impressed.
Well, thank you.
Thank y'all again.
Thanks, John, and best of luck putting your house back together.
Yeah, really. Thank
Oh,
you.
boy.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Okay.
Hey, Cole, how's it going?
Hey, it's going well. I stuck around just to kind of see if it was possible. I know that I've attended this one, but I'd like to see if I could attend the other two as well. Not only to listen to the plan, I'm not sure if registration is full, if there's one more spot that you could maybe open up. But I find that
Registration
the
is
question,
full.
Oh, it
is it? Okay. I just
But
find that
Yeah,
the
also-
question,
we only have, I would say we only have one more and the registration's full tomorrow. But we will have the recording and the PowerPoint up on the website next week.
okay, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Good deal. Thanks,
Good
Cole.
thing.
Appreciate you
Yep.
participating.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. See you.
See ya. David and Sarah, did y'all have questions or did you step away?
I think